The neighborhood of Willow Crest Estates looked like every Instagram-perfect suburb you've ever scrolled past. White picket fences gleaming, lawns shaved to military precision, and American flags fluttering in synchronized obedience. But beneath the pastel perfection lurked the real ruler. The Willow Crest HOA, led by President Karen Whitaker, a woman who could smile while writing you a $500 fine for a dandelion daring to peek above 1 inch. I was Emily Harper, 32, biotech data analyst by day, and apparently the difficult resident by HOA decree. That Thursday morning, the email hit my inbox at 8:03 a.m. like a velvet-wrapped grenade. Sender, Karen Whitaker, HOA president. Subject, Gala seating confirmation. The body was pure saccharine poison. Hi, Emily. Just confirming details for Saturday's annual awards gala. We're all so excited. Seating in the main family section is extremely limited this year. Since you've been so tired lately, we thought it might be kinder for you to watch the live stream from home. It's HD. We'll wave at the camera. Let us know. Warmly, Karen. There it was, the casual assassination wrapped in concern. So tired lately. They had a whole dictionary for it. Stressed, overworked, anxious, and my personal favorite, courtesy of Karen's son Landon, the rising board star, functional fatigue. Never once did they say myasthenia gravis. Never once did they acknowledge the autoimmune war my body waged every 4 hours. The phrase just tired wasn't a knife. It was a rusty saw grinding slowly against my dignity until the wound went septic. I closed the email. My fingers trembled, not from rage, though rage was there, but from the tremor that always arrived when my meds were even 60 seconds late. I glanced at the clock. 8:04. 1 minute behind. I gripped my right hand with my left, forcing stillness, and mentally logged the high-frequency vibration in my index finger. Then I reached for the segmented pill organizer that looked like it belonged to someone's grandmother. I was 32. My life was a fortress of alarms, timers, and exact doses. Mestinon at 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m., immunosuppressants on the dot, steroids when the flares hit. To be late was to risk my throat closing, my eyelids drooping, my legs folding like wet paper. And Karen thought I should just watch the live stream. In Willow Crest, there was only one reality that mattered. The HOA's annual awards gala, where Karen Whitaker will be crowned president of the decade. For 4 years, the neighborhood had revolved around her like planets around a sun. Every newsletter, every meeting, every potluck had become a love letter to Karen's vision of perfection. We didn't discuss real problems, rising flood insurance, cracked sidewalks, actual neighbor needs. We discussed weather misses. Patel's rose bushes were 0.2 inches too tall. Landon Whitaker, Karen's son, was the golden heir apparent, already vice president at 28, the one who would carry the Whitaker dynasty forward. Their house was a shrine. Custom proud mom of HOA VP Landon, mugs stacked in the entryway, a countdown calendar in the community center crossing off days to the gala in thick red marker. And then there was me. I worked 12-hour days analyzing genomic data that could actually save lives. But because I did it from a home office and sometimes needed a cane, my exhaustion was self-inflicted. When the first symptoms appeared, throat muscles hesitating mid-swallow, coffee mug slipping from dead fingers during a Zoom, right eyelid drooping by 5 p.m., Karen's clique seized the narrative. Emily, you're just burning yourself out. She'd coo at meetings, voice dripping pity and judgment. Maybe ease up on that high-pressure job. Learn to relax. My illness was, in their eyes, a character flaw. My cane? Brulp. My request for ADA-compliant parking near the community hall? Drama. A new text bust. Landon. Hey, just making sure you got mom's email. Saturday's going to be high stress for the board. Last thing we need is extra drama. If you're not up to it, stay home. Don't make my mom's big night harder. Don't make my day harder. The narcissism was almost comedic. My body was literally failing at the neuromuscular junction, and his primary worry was that my visible weakness might cast a shadow on Karen's spotlight. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and typed one line back to Karen. I have made my own arrangements. See you Saturday. Then I dialed the number saved under State Compliance Office. This is Emily Harper, confirming my arrival time and faculty access entrance for the gala. The assistant's voice was crisp. Of course, MS. Harper, you're in the front row of the board section next to the state auditor. Ramp access confirmed. They had assigned me the Livestream pity seat. They had forgotten who I was. They had forgotten what I had become. It hadn't started with collapse. It started with small betrayals. First, the throat hesitation mid-meal. Then the mug drop in a Zoom, hot coffee splashing across my keyboard while colleagues gasped. By evening, my eyelid drooped like a skeptical curtain. Colleagues said, "You look exhausted, go home." I went to doctors instead. 6 months of humiliating tests. MS negative, Lyme negative, thyroid perfect. The running theory whispered in condescending tones. Stress, anxiety, maybe depression. Until Dr. Helena Voss, the sharp neurologist who didn't patronize, ordered the acetylcholine receptor antibody panel. The call came on a Tuesday. "It's myasthenia gravis," she said, voice flat with fact. Not stress. Not in my head. My immune system was eating the connection between nerves and muscles. I told the HOA board the same week, naively expecting science to matter. Landon leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers like a TV doctor, and chuckled. MG is incredibly rare, a classic zebra. When you hear hoofbeats, you look for horses, not zebras. These symptoms? Textbook conversion disorder. Stress from your job converting into physical complaints. You're not sick, Emily. You're overwhelmed. Karen's face relaxed into manageable pity. Oh, sweetie, it's just from work? Have you tried yoga? In one meeting, my diagnosis was erased. My reality vetoed. From that day forward, Sunday board updates became amateur grand rounds. I read lavender oil helps functional fatigue, Karen would say, pushing herbal samples across the table. Landon would add, mindset is key. They meant well. Or perhaps it was easier to believe I was weak than to admit the HOA might have to accommodate an actual disability and risk setting a precedent. Then came the bat flare. A simple cold turned my legs to wet sand. I fell twice in my own driveway. Dr. Voss was firm. During exacerbations, you need an assistive device. The cane is non-negotiable. The first time I used it at a board meeting, Landon opened the door and his eyes fixed on the aluminum in my hand. Disgust, not concern. Really, Emily? A cane? At 32? This is dramatic. It keeps me from falling, I said quietly. Or, is it for attention? He shot back. You're leaning into this. It's a performance. Performance. The word landed like a slap. In that moment, I stopped arguing. I stopped proving. I disengaged. But I'm a scientist. We do not discard data. So I started a second log. Every dismissive email, every text from Landon telling me to just try harder, videos of tremors so bad I couldn't hold a fork, audio of my slurred speech when muscles fatigued. Time-stamped. Objective. Brutal. My armor. The seed of an idea grew. Not revenge, data. I wanted them to stop. I wanted the truth presented. My relationship with Dr. Voss had been forged in cold fact. She measured, she quantified, she never pitted. During a checkup, she tapped my file. Your case is refractory, treatment resistant, of significant clinical interest to the State Oversight Board. We're running a long-term observational study on HOA compliance failures regarding disability accommodations. Your file, anonymized of course, will be used as a teaching case. Patient E47, my new name in the halls of state regulation. And 2 months before the gala, the paperwork arrived. Permission to use excerpts in formal addresses to assembled HOA boards and guests. I signed, because data should be published. The confirmation email came from the state auditor's office, not Karen's cheerful listserv. Sender, Office of the State HOA Compliance Director. Subject: Gala Invitation, Special Guest. On behalf of the Oversight Board, it is our honor to invite you as a special guest. Seat reserved in the board section. Please use the West Faculty Access entrance. Ramp fully accommodated. I stared at the signature. Door. Helena Voss, State Auditor and Director of Compliance. My neurologist. The woman who had diagnosed me was also the woman who would be standing on stage handing out awards and auditing Karen's entire reign. The floor dropped away. This was not seating limited. This was honor. They saw my needs. They accommodated them. They were not hiding me. I called her office. Dean Voss, this is Emily Harper. The meeting was granted. Her office overlooked the state capitol, dark wood and leather, nothing like the sterile exam rooms. She wore a charcoal suit now, not a white coat. Emily, she said, leaning forward, a gala speech is the last lesson before these board members go back to their little kingdoms. My speech is not about success. It is about failure, the failure of the HOA gaze. The arrogance of assuming we know before we listen. The sacred duty of truly hearing the resident, even when the story is complex or inconvenient. She tapped a single sheet. Your case, patient E47, is the centerpiece. The perfect, terrifying example of a complaint nearly dismissed because board members looked at a young professional woman and saw drama instead of disability. And as part of this lesson, I will be addressing a specific related incident. Her voice dropped to surgical steel. We have become aware that a board member in good standing who sat through the training module on patient 47 was confronted with this exact diagnosis in his own neighborhood. He did not merely fail to recognize it. He actively denied it. He used his institutional authority to gaslight the resident. He told the board and the family that her cane was dramatic, that her symptoms were performance. She was quoting Landon's texts, the ones I had forwarded as data. My heart went icy calm. I gave one slow nod. This is not family drama, she continued. This is professional ethics. The speech will keep names private, but the truth will be a mirror. What the individuals see in that mirror is their concern. However, if a board member's personal conduct constitutes a severe breach of the ethical code they swore to uphold, the Compliance Board has non-negotiable authority. We can delay or withhold recognition, awards, even recommend removal pending remediation. The leverage was set. Academic, procedural, clinical. Saturday morning my alarms went off at 7 a.m. Not for the gala, but for dose 1. I performed the ritual, Mestinon, immunosuppressants, steroids. My purse was a mobile pharmacy. The cane, Landon's prop, was the only reason I could walk the ramp without collapsing. I chose the deep academic blue sheath dress, heavy crepe to hide tremors, the color of clear diagnosis. No makeup. Hair in a severe knot. No performance. Only truth. The drive was surreal. Cars with congrats, HOA president, balloons floated past. I followed the discreet board and staff only signs, turned down the service road lined with cypress. Presented my invitation. Gate lifted. Space 27, right by the faculty door. An usher in black blazer checked his list. Emily Harper, right this way. Front section. He led me past the noisy main lobby where Karen's clique was already fussing over Landon, then directly into the auditorium. My seat was front row of the board section, aisles separating me from the stage. Car next to mine, Dr. Alistair Finch, chair of compliance. I settled in, cane at my feet. From here, I could see the entire room. I scanned the main seating and found them. Karen in the center, already in her President of the Decade sash, fussing over Landon's tie. Landon leaning back, confident smirk, holding court. They were so blissfully ignorant. My phone vibrated. Karen's text, sent seconds ago. You watching the live stream? It's about to start. We'll wave. I looked at the message, then at their happy faces, then at my seat of honor less than 50 yards away. I powered the phone off. A moment later, the scent of academic wool and faint perfume. A tall figure in heavy black robe slid into the seat beside me. Not Dr. Finch. Dr. Helena Voss herself. She did not look at me. She faced the stage. The lights dimmed. She leaned in, voice a whisper meant only for me. Today the clinical voice belongs to you, Emily. Thank you for being here. Does he know I'm here? I breathed. No. A lesson has to be a surprise to be remembered. The processional music boomed, pomp and circumstance, slow and stately. The board rose. I rose with them, hand on the chair back, cane at my side. My pulse hammered, but my posture was steel. The broadcast camera on its boom arm began its sweep. It passed the trustees, past Karen, and locked on me for one deliberate second. The red light burned. I stared straight into the lens. I was no longer watching a live stream. I was the live stream. Speeches blurred into background noise until the chairman returned to the podium. And now it is my distinct honor to introduce the State Auditor and Director of Compliance, Dr. Helena Voss, for the keynote address. Applause. Dr. Voss rose like a column of authority. She walked to the podium, arranged her notes, gripped the sides. The room fell into profound quiet. Board members, she began, voice amplified and absolute. More than 100 years ago, a founding principle of fair governance was laid down. Listen to the resident. They're telling you the diagnosis. She let the sentence settle. Not listen if convenient. Not listen unless the story fits your rulebook. Listen because the resident's lived experience is the primary data. Her voice hardened. Yet in the rush of enforcement, we have developed a dangerous trap. When faced with symptoms we don't immediately understand, muscle weakness, fatigue, swallowing difficulty, we reach for the easiest label: stress, laziness, drama. We call it functional fatigue. We transfer the burden of ignorance onto the resident. Behind her, the massive screen switched. Stark black text on white. Case study patient E47. Female, 32. Presentation: progressive muscle weakness, ptosis, fatigue, dysphagia. 6-month diagnostic delay. Initial workups negative. Symptoms attributed to functional fatigue and work-related stress. Diagnosis: confirmed refractory myasthenia gravis. The air thinned. Patient E47 was told her symptoms were stress. She was advised to take a vacation, try yoga, just relax. What she actually needed was targeted immunosuppression and a 60 milligrams dose of Mestinon every 4 hours simply to swallow. Because of this delay, she came dangerously close to myasthenic crisis, a preventable respiratory failure. She clicked. Next slide. But patient E47 was not only a patient. She was a scientist. She documented her own case with rigor. When finally diagnosed, she enrolled in our research protocol. Her data has already contributed to 3 published papers on HOA compliance failures regarding disability rights. Her experience has updated our training modules. Her willingness to be a lesson will protect countless other residents. I glanced at the board section. They were rapt. Then I risked a look at Landon. He was taking furious notes, head bent, expression academic focus. He was studying patient E47, completely unaware he was the object of the lesson. Dr. Voss stepped from behind the podium, voice quieter, more dangerous. The story of patient E47 has a coda that illustrates the most profound breach of the code you swore to uphold. Landon stopped writing. His head came up. This patient, while fighting for basic accommodations, was dismissed by her own HOA board. Why? Because a board member who had studied this very case file used his authority to gaslight her. He told the board her cane was dramatic. He told them her symptoms were a performance. He told them she was pretending. A collective gasp rippled through the graduates. No, the board members. Whispers erupted. Who? Which one? Landon's face drained of color, waxy gray. His confident smirk vanished. He knew the trap had sprung. Dr. Voss raised her hand. Silence slammed back. When a resident's reality is vetoed by those entrusted with power, It is not disagreement. It is medical gaslighting. It is violence. And when done by an HOA official, it is an unforgivable abuse of authority. Because the first thing that dies is not the body. It is trust. She turned slowly, black robe swinging, and faced the board section directly at me. The resident who endured this is not hypothetical. Patient E47 is with us in this auditorium today. Gasps exploded. Heads snapped. People leaned over railings. Dr. Voss's eyes never left mine. Emily Harper, she called, voice ringing with authority. Would you please stand? Time fractured. My name spoken in that hall was not, Emily, you're just tired. It was fact. I gripped the chair arm and the cane. Pushed. Legs trembled but held. The spotlight snapped on, blinding white. It illuminated my blue dress, my cane, my steady gaze. Scattered applause began, polite, confused, pitying. Dr. Voss cut through it. This is the woman whose persistence in the face of absolute HOA gaslighting saved her own life and changed our protocols. This is the scientist whose documentation has already protected other residents. The applause changed. It became thunder. An ovation. The entire room rose. Board members, residents, even the staff. The camera locked on me. My face projected 40 feet tall on the screens. I did not cry. Crying was what they called performance. I lifted my chin higher and let them see the cane and the truth. I turned my head toward the main seating. Karen and Landon were an island of frozen horror in a sea of standing ovation. Karen's hand clamped over her mouth, face greenish white. Landon sat motionless, the only one still in his chair. The spotlight was on me, but the incinerating heat was on them. The ovation thundered for a full minute. My legs shook violently. I gave Dr. Voss a single sharp nod and lowered myself back into the seat. The applause faded into electric silence. Dr. Voss returned to the podium. The screens went blank. As I said, a board member who studied this case chose to use his position to inflict harm. The room held its breath. Repeatedly and unequivocally, he told the resident her symptoms were not real. He labeled her medically necessary assistive device a performance. He actively generated psychological harm. She let the words hang. We have a clinical term for this, HOA gaslighting. It is a catastrophic failure of ethics. It is harm. The auditorium was suffocating. Therefore, Dr. Voss announced, voice like a gavel, the President of the Decade Award and the Vice Presidency of this student. No, this board member will be temporarily withheld pending mandatory review and remediation by the State Compliance Board. A sharp collective gasp. The screens flickered back to life with a remediation protocol. 60 hours of intensive ethics training on patient-centered communication and disability rights. 160 hours of supervised shadowing in neuromuscular disability cases. A 10,000-word reflective essay analyzing his own cognitive biases using his own text messages as primary sources. The camera began its slow predatory pan across the board section. It locked on Landon. His image filled the giant screens. Ashen face, dead eyes, the golden boy publicly dismantled. Dr. Voss continued without mercy. This institution will not confer recognition upon an individual who has demonstrated such a fundamental lack of judgment. The code must mean something. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. The broadcast camera held on Landon's frozen horror. He was no longer the future of Willow Crest. He was the cautionary tale. Dr. Voss let the silence stretch like a blade. Then she turned once more toward me. The resident whose persistence saved not only herself, but future standards is not a hypothetical. Emily Harper, would you please stand again? I rose a second time. The spotlight returned. This time the applause was immediate, thunderous, respectful. Faculty, residents, even some of Karen's former allies stood. The camera swept the room and found Karen and Landon still seated, statues of shame. Dr. Voss's voice softened with genuine warmth. On behalf of the entire Oversight Board, I wish to personally thank Ms. Emily Harper. She did not just endure a complex disease. She endured a profound failure of governance. And by bringing her truth forward, she has given every HOA board in this state the chance to correct itself. The ovation swelled again. I stood under the white fire, cane steady, refusing to break. When it finally subsided, Dr. Voss closed the file. Before we dismiss, I will read one final entry from the clinical notes of patient E47. She put on slim reading glasses. The room went deathly quiet. October 6th. Progressive dysphagia noted. Patient reports increasing difficulty swallowing solid foods requiring high concentration. Marked cervical muscle weakness upon repeated testing. Intermittent profound fatigue. Presentation consistent with partial response to first-line acetylcholinesterase inhibitors confirming refractory state. She removed the glasses. Progressive dysphagia. Cervical muscle weakness. Refractory state. This, board members, is the clinical language. This is the data. This is not just fatigue. She clicked the final slide. I can now inform you that in the intervening time, the Compliance Board has met in emergency session. The board has unanimously identified the board member in question. The board has ratified the remediation protocol exactly as displayed. The award is withheld. The vice presidency is suspended effective immediately. The giant screens split. One held Dr. Voss. The other locked on Landon in full-frame cruelty. His waxy, shattered face filled 40 feet of projection. No tears. Just hollow realization. The camera did not flinch. Dr. Voss turned slightly toward the wings where I now stood. Thank you, Emily. The applause became a rolling, powerful thunder. They were not clapping for drama. They were clapping because the code had been upheld in public view. I did not wait for it to die. I walked out into the main aisle, cane tapping steady rhythm against the carpet. Thud, 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 a rhythm of certainty. The entire room was still standing. As I passed, they turned, and the applause followed me. I reached the row where Karen and Landon sat. They shrank back, pressing themselves against other spectators, clearing a path like a wall finally parting. I walked past without a glance. They were spectators to my truth now. I pushed open the great wooden doors. Behind me, the house lights flashed on, signaling the end. The orchestra exploded into its final crescendo. I knew without turning what the last image on the screens was: Landon's empty chair and the single white unaddressed envelope, the Gala program, sitting closed. The stark symbol of the award that was not there. The chaotic celebration noise washed over the auditorium as people stood, stretched, called to one another. The spell was broken, but I remained an island of stillness in the faculty section. Dr. Voss stayed seated beside me. For a few moments the world left us alone. Then came the disturbance at the velvet rope. An usher blocked a small frantic group. I'm sorry, this section is reserved. That's my resident. Karen's voice cracked with hysteria. She ducked under the usher's arm, followed by her husband and a few board allies. They stumbled into the aisle, faces ruined by shock. Karen rushed at me, hands flapping, tears streaming. Emily, that case, patient E47, that was you. Her voice was a whisper of pure horror, as if this were a new revelation and not the truth I had tried to explain for 2 years. I did not stand. I did not match her hysteria. I looked at her steadily, voice low and clear. I told you, Karen. Many times. I told you I had myasthenia gravis. I told you my symptoms. You chose not to listen. But Landon said. I know what Landon said. I cut her off. Her husband stepped forward, 20 years older in 1 hour, clutching his phone like a lifeline. Emily, I thought you were just tired. Just tired. The phrase that had been the epitaph of my entire experience. He said it like a confession. Aunt figures from the board, women who had once cheerfully suggested essential oils, hid behind him, dabbing eyes. The shame rolled off them in waves. Into this raw tableau arrived Landon. escorted by a man in a crisp dark suit from the compliance office. He was still in his board blazer, but the vice president pin was crooked. His face was gray, clammy, lifeless. He looked like a prisoner being led to sentencing. The compliance officer stopped 5 feet away and nodded to DR. Voss. She rose, robe giving her the weight of a judge. Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker, this is not a family discussion. This is the first step in formal remediation. Please stand back. Her gaze fell on Landon. You have been brought here for one reason. This is the appropriate time for an apology. It was not a request. It was instruction. Step 1, the protocol. The first bitter pill. Silence stretched. Landon swallowed hard, took 2 jerky steps until he stood in front of my chair. His eyes fixed on my knees. Emily, he rasped. I was wrong. I was arrogant. I used my position to crush the truth. I didn't listen. I'm sorry. The words hung pathetic and insufficient. Everyone looked at me, waiting for absolution, for it's okay, for the moment to end. I let the silence stretch 10 full seconds. Then I reached for the cane, lifted it 1 inch, and tapped it once on the floor. Thud. I looked past him to Karen, then back to Landon. This, I said, holding the cane horizontally, is not a prop. This is not a performance. This is not dramatic. This is my body. This is the truth you crushed. Your apology does not change the facts. Landon flinched as if struck. Karen let out a tiny wounded sound. DR. Voss stepped forward. This failure did not happen in a vacuum. It was enabled. Therefore, as a mandatory condition of continued board membership, you, Karen Whitaker, and your family will attend the State Chronic Illness Support and Education Program for HOA officials. Every session, you will learn. This is not optional. Karen's jaw dropped. But you are DR. Voss stated. Your education begins next week. My office will send the schedule. They have been recategorized. No longer the proud rulers of Willow Crest. Now officially families in need of education. I stood, leaning on the cane, feeling its solid weight. I looked at the broken group. I'm setting my own terms. There will be no more, just relax. No more herbal suggestions. You will not treat my illness as opinion or inconvenience or failure of character. From this moment, you will treat myasthenia gravis as fact, a fact I manage with my medical team every single day. That is the new reality. There is no other. I let the words land in the ruins of their comfortable world. Karen gave a small, jerky nod. Her husband shut his eyes tight. Even Landon dipped his chin almost imperceptibly. It was not forgiveness. It was acknowledgement. They were finally compelled to face the truth because I had burned their convenient fiction to the ground. DR. Voss led me from the section, cane tapping quiet rhythm down the backstage corridor. We passed equipment cases and functional doors. The compliance officer walked ahead, hand on Landon's elbow, not comfort control. Landon was a ghost in his own blazer. In the small, windowless conference room, the formal hearing began. 2 men waited, DR. Alistair Finch, chair of compliance, and Mr. Graves from ethics. The proceedings were cold, procedural, merciless. Documents were signed. Landon's signature on the acknowledgement of guilt was jagged and broken. When it was my turn to speak, I kept it clinical. He did not just fail me as a neighbor. He failed the standard. His remediation cannot be about making anyone feel better. It must be about the standard. Make him competent or do not let him serve. Mr. Graves nodded curtly. Your position is precisely the position of this board. The hearing concluded. Landon was led away to surrender his board ID and begin suspension. One final matter remained. DR. Voss and I stepped back toward the stage. The closing music still swelled. She placed a buff manila file on the podium. Before the final dismissal, she read one last clinical note aloud, voice flat and final. The data spoke. The lie died in public. Then she announced the board's unanimous ratification. The screen split again. Landon's face filled the second screen, pure, silent, hollowed-out comprehension. I walked out into the main aisle against the current of celebration. The applause followed me all the way to the great doors. I pushed them open. Bright lobby light flooded in. Behind me, the house lights flashed full on. The orchestra hit its triumphant crescendo. I knew with absolute certainty what the final lingering image on every screen was: Landon's empty chair and the single white unaddressed gala program sitting closed. The stark, silent, perfect symbol of the award that was not there. Thank you for listening to this HOA Karen story. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop in the comments so we can connect. If you held your breath even once, smash that like button, subscribe for more neighborhood justice, and hit the notification bell. Let's make sure every HOA Karen hears this one.